Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Make you say. 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 Make you say.
Politicians are advancing a global plan, the plan of the Antichrist. This is the doctrine of Lucifer, which Freemasons, Knights Templar, and members of the Illuminati global network of secret societies follow. Their goal is the total spiritual and ecological destruction of the world. They use advanced technology to spy on and kill whoever gets in their way.
Which is being actually carried out right now, is to create conflict, to create wars. And through the creation of wars, several things happen. First of all, the companies which manufacture the missiles, the guns, the bullets, the uniforms, and all of the paraphernalia to do with warfare, all make huge profits. Secondly, there is a culling of the male population. Since the 1950s, we've had several reports from think tanks that feed information into the European Union, the British government, and also the American government, which are recommending depopulation. And there is several plans which we believe have been put in motion right now. And obviously war is one way of depopulating the planet.
You see, when I look at sin, and I see it as a relatively small thing, and I look at the eternality of hell, it seems like there's a vast difference between them. That when those who fall into the pit of hell, they are going to see everywhere, forever, 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 above everything, above every door, if there were such things there, on everything, on every chain there, is going to be written forever. There is utter hopelessness. Look at that. Oh, but sin is such a small thing. I mean, if I committed sin for 70 years of my life here, how is it God can torment me forever in hell? Doesn't there seem like there's some disproportionate dealing with the sin there? But not at all, once we realize who our sin is against ultimately, and who the God is that we sin against, what He is. You know, it's one thing if we squash a fire ant, or we swat a mosquito. But you know, it's another thing altogether if you find your child out in the yard rather than stepping on ants. He's out there taking living cats and mutilating them in your yard. You would probably respond differently. You know why? Because you attach greater significance to a cat. There's greater worth in your estimation. And it would be even different if you saw somebody brutally killing a child. In your estimation, the sin would be much greater, because the one the sin is against has greater worth. But how do you measure sin? that is committed against an infinitely holy God, even the smallest sin committed against an infinitely holy God, it is infinite. It is infinitely wicked. When we hear forever, 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 hell is reasonable. When we see in the one who is sentenced to that place wickedness that is infinite. Some of you that hear my voice, you are quickly moving in that direction.
Every man who has broken even one law of God is under a curse. What does it mean to be under a curse? It's a very difficult thing. It's such a horrible idea. Let me put it to you this way. To be accursed means that before a holy God and a holy heaven, we would be so heinous in our sin, so vile, that the last thing we would hear when we took our first step into hell would be all of creation standing to its feet and applauding God because He's rid the earth of us.